Hi there, and welcome to the Homestead Education Podcast. Do you have a homestead, farm, or just dream of a rural life? This is a show to help you and your kids grow your own food and grow as a person. I'm your host, Kody Hanner. I'm a homesteader, homeschool mama six, and small town enthusiast. I was raised by an old school rancher and blessed by the grace of God to have been exposed to so much of what rural life has to offer. Join me every week to talk about homesteading, homeschooling, and growth with a homestead education. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Homestead Education Podcast. Today, we have special guest Erin Majeske from Barefeet Farm School in Bellingham, Washington. Welcome, Erin.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Do you want to tell everyone a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm Erin Majeske. I'm here at my school in Bellingham, Washington. It is sunny. The dandelions are blooming in the field right now. Really beautiful. I started
Potatoes
Barefeet.
in?
Oh gosh, I wish. I actually just planted my garden yesterday and I bought starts for the first time because I always have really high hopes for myself, and I'm going to start my seeds and put my seeds in the ground. And I have a baby. I have a 6-month-old baby, and this year I bought starts, and it's awesome. And
Enough said.
I don't know if I'll ever buy seeds again. So I have a 6-month-old baby. His name is Luke. I live with him and my husband on a lake outside of Bellingham, and we run our outdoor preschool. We also have toddler playgroups and summer camp.
Oh, fun. So how big is your preschool?
We have 12 kids with us every day, and then various extra people around. The property is 15 acres. It's like half woods and half field, and then our classroom is in the field. It's like a fenced area that has a little bit of indoor space and is mostly outdoors in our field.
How fun. So what does a typical day look like at an outdoor preschool?
We mostly play. We mostly, in quotes, just play. It's not just playing. They're learning the whole time. But so we get there, we sing a song together and talk about what we're excited to do that day, kind of check in. And then we all sign in. Our kids are ages 3 to 5, and that's a really wide developmental range and also a really varied developmental range. Some kids are writing their names when they're 3, and some kids are writing their names when they're 8, and that's all normal, and we're supporting them wherever they're at. So
I have a 3 and a 5-year-old right now, so
yeah, you get it. We all sign in, whether that's scribbling or stamping or saying hello or writing, and then we play all morning in our outdoor classroom. We have a shelter. Inside the shelter, there's like trains and art supplies and loose parts and puzzles, and then there's blocks and a mud hole, kind of a mud kitchen type space, an old boat that was turned into a playhouse that has costumes and pieces of fabric and kind of dramatic play inspired things inside, and then a lot of field space, some balls and hippity hops for gross motor play, and a willow corner. A little corner of our classroom has willow trees around it and is really serene. A lot of book reading happens there. So we play all morning in our classroom, and then we have lunch together. And then we usually go exploring in the woods or in a field that has like a drainage creek running through it. And then we sing a goodbye song, talk about what we did that day, and then we go home.
That sounds fun. I want to come to your preschool. I want to play in the
You're welcome anytime.
It sounds like such a good time. So what benefits have you found to the kids just learning outside all the time or close to outside?
Yeah, I used to teach preschool inside, and it's important to be clear that there are a lot of people doing a lot of great things inside with preschoolers, and I'm not one of them. It didn't really work for me. So I started my outdoor school because the outside is so much bigger and quieter and allows kids to be kids. When I was inside, I spent a lot of my time telling the kids not to run and telling the kids to be quiet, and we just weren't doing any learning because I was telling them to not be kids all the time. And now that we're outside, we're running all the time. You can throw things almost whenever you want, and we're learning so much more than we ever did inside. Being outside also encourages more free play experiences. I think like as adults around kids, when we're inside, we have a tendency to tell them what to do and to maybe think that we know what they're supposed to be learning, and outside kind of shuffles that up. So we can allow the process to happen more naturally.
I know like behaviorally so I have 6 kids and 5 of them are
Nice.
boys. So
Yeah.
boys need to be outside all the time. Like they should probably just live there. But maybe that's because
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a house with as many boys as I am.
Yeah.
But my 5-year-old, he's a very mellow child, and he can learn inside, he can learn outside. And I definitely see in his outside space, he got a bug kit for Easter and we're working in the garden and he's out there collecting bugs. And then when he comes inside, he wants to learn about his bugs. Where my 3-year-old is feral to like, we can't keep him contained. We can never find him. He, baby gates. Yeah, right. Like it's not even
Yeah.
that he climbs over them. I mean, 14 months old, he climbed one, went to the cabinet, got a screwdriver and took it apart.
Nice. That's awesome.
This kid is something else. But to see him outside versus inside, he's like a caged animal, where outside he is at peace.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Kids who have big expressions and need a lot of movement just feel themselves outside, and then they're not trying to be something else, and then things don't come out wonky sideways because they're trying to be something they're not.
Mm-hmm.
We were
Um,
we were joking about my son. He's 6 months old right now, but we were at toddler playgroup this morning, and there was a kid who is almost exactly a year older than him. And so we were thinking about what's it going to be like when Luke, my baby, is a year and a half old. And I think maybe we might have similar children. We were saying he's going to be starting fires, climbing fences, making catapults. Like he
oh
just
yeah.
fell off the bed for the first time this weekend, which was really sad. And of course, it's going to happen, and you don't want it to happen. But um, he would just crawl right off again. He's ready.
My 3-year-old Branch, he fell off the ottoman directly on his head 3 times today because he set himself up to get up and do it again.
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe he's looking for that vestibular input, like that big bonking. It might be calming to him or helping him learn.
Yeah, he was trying to like go from the ottoman to an upside down laundry basket, and like he was trying to like scale the laundry basket like Spider-Man style, but upside down. And yeah, it wasn't really working for him, but it kept really entertained for a long time. So
nice. That's awesome.
yeah, I mean, he doesn't talk yet, and he's very observant. But he's been watching my husband work on like the lawnmower and the weed eater and stuff, because it's springtime. We're pulling everything out and getting it ready to go. And we went to the barber shop the other day, and after he got his haircut, his brother was getting his haircut, and I couldn't find Branch. Big surprise. So I went looking for him, and he was in the back room taking apart the lady's snowblower.
Oh no.
I'm like, I'm sorry. Like it was little stuff, so I was able to just put it back on. Like he had the gas cap and the oil cap and something else off.
Yeah. Well, isn't that awesome though, that he's learning those skills, he's learning how things work. And we have a tendency to label kids, I think, a lot in our society, like ask them what they're going to be when they're older rather than ask them what they are right now. And right now he's an engineer. And also maybe when he's older, he'll be building stuff and taking them apart. But it's cool that he has the space to explore that right now.
Yeah, and it's amazing to see what he's able to do. But yeah, he's definitely he's lit fires. He's escaped in the middle of the night and went down to the pond to try to go fishing.
Oh no, you catch anything?
No, we caught him before he got there, but he had his stuff with him.
That's fair.
My Great Pyrenees is looking back on the trail like, deal with your kid.
Yeah.
But so you also do some consulting. What are you working on with that?
I consult with people about getting kids outside, whether that's the kids in their classroom, like their teachers, or that's kids in their family, just talking about why we should be outside with our kids and how to make that happen. And as comfortable, like nothing is safe really, but in as safe of a way as we can. And then also I'm talking with people right now specifically about starting their own schools.
Okay. So do you have like a system? I mean, I know that the concept of being outside and just being free is free of those systems, but do you have something that you kind of put into place or suggest to families?
Yeah, we take inspiration from a lot of different models and curriculums. We don't follow a specific model, but we are inspired by forest schooling and Montessori and Charlotte Mason and Waldorf. And yeah, being outside gives you the freedom to choose what you want your school to be like or what you want your interactions with your kids to be like. Forest schooling is really it's a really great option for modeling because it is based outside and it's made for being outside. Um,
So would you like to
and
explain forest schooling a little bit?
yeah, yeah, it originated in Scandinavia, like Norway, Finland, Sweden, and it's a curriculum and a way of being outside that is child led. So um, kids are following their interests and learning what they need to be learning in that moment. And then adults are supporting that journey and giving them the resources to do whatever they need to be doing in that time. Forest schooling incorporates a lot of risky play. So climbing trees, using tools like whittling, making fires, depending on what age the kids are. Um, and yeah, it all centers around following the kids' interests and encouraging them to be capable so that they can take risks and learn.
I like it. So I've talked about Charlotte Mason on the podcast before, but would you like to maybe talk a little bit about like what Charlotte Mason is and what Montessori is?
Yeah. Oh gosh, this is a lot of pressure.
I know, sorry.
No, that's
Don't take
okay.
it that way. It's such a great opportunity to educate on different styles.
Yeah, totally. Well, Montessori is a system that, just like forest schooling, it starts when kids are born, basically, especially Montessori, and then goes throughout their schooling experience. And so different skills for different levels. Montessori is kind of based around the idea that kids, again, we're following the kids' interests, but
Okay.
Montessori is um, focused on being in community, focused on supporting the kids emotionally. They think about um, capabilities and helping kids. So if a kid thinks that they can do something, you should not do it for them. But as adults in the space, we are available to support because we're all connected. It's kind of what Montessori is based around, in my experience. Um, so Montessori schools are often very beautifully organized, and they have a lot of wood toys. Um,
One
and
of my kids' favorite toys is a Montessori toy. They've had it
yeah,
for
we
two
have
years and they play with it more than anything else, and I'm constantly having to fix it. So
totally. Yeah, we have a pickler triangle in our classroom that's it's just like a ladder folded in half, basically, that's
that's ours is like
made.
an arch that they can either
Hmm.
climb over it or they can like rock in it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's that's made to target kids wherever they're at. So like my baby, for example, interacts with it. He'll like hold it and he's starting to pull himself up. And the preschoolers will climb over it or crawl under it. Um, yeah, they interact with it in different ways.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, then you also ask about Charlotte Mason. She's really inspirational for me for language learning right now. Charlotte Mason lived, I believe, in the mid 1800s. Correct me if I'm
Sounds
wrong.
right.
And yeah, she was like a
Or I
school
think, yeah,
teacher.
late 1800s, I think. But yeah, it's not.
Yeah, not now, long time ago.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, she was kind of a school teacher extraordinaire, and she wrote a lot of books about teaching kids. And she loved teaching kids languages, even when she didn't know them. So she would tell stories. There's like these sequences that you go through to learn the languages, and rather than learning like this is a verb and these are all the verbs, you like learn how to say um, a sequence of things like I go to the door, I approach the door, I open the doorknob, I open the door, and it keeps going. and you can learn it in all these different languages, and it's a story and you act it out. It's really effective.
I could see that being really effective. It's never been one I've followed much for no other reason except for it's mainly literature based, and I'm super, like, I guess, right brained on that one, where I'm very math, science, straight to the point. And so I was like, yeah, I mean, we barely even read literature in the house, let alone. But I find that my style of teaching actually falls a lot into the thoughts of being outside and learning with the kids and stuff. So
yeah, it feels like Charlotte Mason knew what made sense and what was instinctual, and then she had like a knack for writing it down.
that's, I mean, I think that's key. Like, I don't think we write enough anymore. It's all snapping pictures on our phones and nobody's journaling. I mean, not that nobody's journaling, but I think we definitely, I say we as in those of us who see that children learn differently, who are embracing kind of some of our roots on the farms and that type of stuff. We're also embracing some of these other traditions and skills that have been let by the wayside over the last 50 to 100 years.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, writing is slower, the same way that working in the garden is slower than working on your computer. And I think it feels different. It's good for us.
Yeah. And I mean, even myself, I'm not a journaler. It's just not my thing. But whenever I've done any type of, self-help type thing, or I'm, working with a coach or something, and they always tell me to journal, I say, well, journaling's not comfortable for me, but I love working in my planner. And I mean, this is my notepad that I'm working with right now, which nobody can really see that, but this is all like pages and pages and pages of notes and business cards and everything. And it makes me feel so good to have everything I'm doing right here tangibly. That, I travel a lot. I live in the middle of nowhere and I never have cell phone service. And then I have, like my business manager being like, well, we need to get all of your tasks in Asana, which is a program we can use. And I'm like, that's great. Once you get them all in there, I will write them in my planner.
Right.
And she's like, that's a waste of your time. I'm like, no, it's not, because it's very calming for me. Similar to how you would probably suggest to me to take time to journal. I'm not going to journal, but I will take the time to work in my planner, and that I do it all in different colors. And it's a very connecting thing for me to feel the pen on the paper.
Yeah. And it gets it into your body too. That's part of playing outside. Round circle is getting things into your body before you can get them into your brain. And the way that you're writing and organizing and feeling it, it's really helping you learn.
It is. Yeah. That it's like a muscle memory type thing, where
Totally.
just typing it into my computer, I can sit there and type and my hands are moving faster than probably my brain. And afterwards I read it and I'm like, wow, I'm really smart. And I have like no clue what I mean, I don't remember actually writing it. So I think there's really something to that.
You are really smart.
I didn't mean that. But something to the taking the time to write it, that it like imprints in your brain in a different way.
Totally.
Well, and then we see a lot of boys with, the kinetic learning, where they have to be outside and be physical to learn.
Yeah. It's important for all people, boys especially, people who need a lot of like vestibular input, like I was saying earlier, proprioceptive input. Vestibular input is the feeling of like harsh movements, so like jumping, bouncing, tumbling, running, and then proprioceptive input has to do with knowing where your body is in space, so like your balance, so like spinning and walking on uneven surfaces, swinging, things like that. And yeah, so many people need to have that input in their bodies before they can learn anything in their brain, or they need to have that input in their bodies while they're learning something in their brain so that it sticks.
That's interesting. I mean, I did a lot of like in college trying to, ways to memorize stuff, like, getting ready for like an anatomy test or something where that is just strictly memorization. And we tried all the different things like, chewing gum, or we'd be in the library and we'd all stand around a table and like we'd say a part and then like take a step or something,
Mm-hmm.
kind of just try to remember it. So we'd like our instructor was laughing at us one time because we got really silly with it. I don't even remember what we were talking about, like something about how the cells like do something within the intestine. So we were doing this like thing where we're like, as we talked about it, we did our hand motions and like we're sitting in the test, like doing the hand motions, like trying to remember. And our instructor was laughing at us so hard, but we all like rocked the test that time.
Yeah, totally. So why are we asking our kids to sit in desks and, um, you know, be inside when we know it's not working, if that's what you're doing as a college student to learn
Mhm.
this thing for yourself?
Well, I mean, actually, the book I'm writing right now on raising self-sufficient kids is actually where I've taken so much of what was done to us when we were kids and that we're trying to correct now,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of taking that step out of having something done to us and just teaching in that zone of what we actually want to see happening, or what should have been happening for us like in the first place. So things like, rather than correcting educational things for the kids, it's we're just doing it right now,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yeah.
mine's more on working with kids and kids being more self-sufficient and stuff rather than their educational piece, but it's so intertwined.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you can't really learn anything unless you want to, and you won't want to learn if you're being forced to, um, and you won't want to learn if it's not fun. So if we can start like do that prevention piece like you're talking about, and the prevention is making it fun, making it possible, making it interesting, then they'll be actually learning, and then they won't have to go back and fix it later, hopefully.
Exactly. I mean, of course, there's just the mess of what our school systems are
Yeah.
in the first place right now. But if even, now we're in a society where, because of where, people have to work and they need childcare and those types of things, that school systems are just something that we almost have to have at this point. It would be really wonderful to see them embracing some of these other concepts as far as, more outdoors, or, learning where kids can learn more to their own needs rather than a set situation. I mean, are you seeing any more schools starting to embrace some of these concepts?
Yeah, I see a huge movement towards smaller schools. I have a kind of a personal conflict, I guess. In a lot of ways, I think that public school is really important. Going to school with your neighbors that you might not know otherwise is
Mhm.
really is a huge deal, as our society gets more, as we like get into bubbles and more separated. That going to school with your neighbors is huge.
Mhm.
Um,
I mean,
and
I grew up in public schools and I loved being
yeah,
with my friends. It's more what they're teaching us at this point that's like,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, totally. Well, yeah, I loved going to public school too, and I loved it because I knew people who were different than my family, and I wouldn't have grown up in the same way otherwise. And public school right now relies a lot on control. It relies a lot on testing, and it's not serving our kids. Especially, I read somewhere that like 30%, maybe even more than that. So many of the jobs that these 5-year-olds will have in 15 years don't even exist yet. So we don't know what we're preparing them for. So how could we be testing them on skills that we don't even know that they need?
Right. Like I had no clue I was going to be a podcaster.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that was not a thing. I mean, maybe radio or um news channels and those types of things. Then I mean, podcasting isn't even my main skill, but it's just that ability to talk and then know how to work the computer system to do my own editing and those types of things. Yeah, those did not exist when I was 5 years old.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, learning those computer skills and math, like the hard skills that you need to do your job, is important. But if you are confident and resourceful, you can do whatever job comes up for you.
Hmm. I'm actually seeing a lot of people talking about pulling away from college and start looking at putting together portfolios of their
Yeah.
skills versus the degree.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense. How many people do you know that actually work in the field that their degree is in? Not very many.
Yeah, I mean, even mine, I was an ag major and I do teach agriculture now, but it's such a different, what I'm teaching now, I could have done with the life skills that I created by growing up on a ranch and stuff like that. The science behind it, I already had that drive. I would have tried to learn that anyways, so it's kind of that I don't regret my degree, but I also know that what I'm doing in life at this point, I could have done without my degree.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder how it'll be for these kids.
That is really interesting. I have to, because I look at like my 5-year-old right now and the things he talks about doing, and I wonder what that will look like for him. Probably just following his brother around to make sure he doesn't off himself.
Yeah, maybe he's the security manager.
Right. He's so worried about him all the time. I mean, I think the 3-year-old's gonna give the 5-year-old a heart attack. I have this reel where the 5-year-old comes in and he's just so upset. We were playing with dirt and water and Ranch ate it. Like in my reel, I turned to Branch and he's got like dirt all the way around his mouth. I'm like, yeah, that happens.
Yeah, his immune system's gonna be so strong.
Right? Especially because our dirt is pretty much the compost pile from the neighbor's cows. So,
Nice.
I mean, it's very, very aged. So it's probably nice and sterile at this point. Fingers crossed.
Right. Nope, it's good for him. Do a little deworming. He's fine.
Right. Yeah, we're good. And I do love that about my kids growing up on the farm is nothing is sterile here.
Yeah, I was reading about allergies recently. There's so many more kids have allergies and food sensitivities than they used to, and so many more things are sterile. I don't have really any science to back me up here, which in general is okay with me. That thing we can know things without having data, and data is also important. But allergies, yeah, being sterile creates an environment that is not supportive of our kids, both in terms of germs and also in terms of ideas. Yeah, being exposed to a variety of ideas and parts of nature is really important for their development.
Well, I mean, it's building immunities and like you said, just thought process too, like facing adversities and stuff like that. They say like small amounts of stress helps you build tolerance to stress. Not that we should be like stressing our kids out, but it's okay for them to be uncomfortable. It's okay for them to fail. It's okay for them to figure things out on their own and be frustrated.
Yeah, for sure. And it's great for us to be able to give them the tools rather than band-aiding their stress.
So I ask people all the time, like, are you filling your kids' toolbox or are you building it for them?
Yeah.
And I used that with my 14-year-old the other day. He was doing something dumb and I said, I feel like I gave you a hammer to hammer in a nail and you used your forehead. I started laughing. I was, well, that's how ridiculous it feels to me the way you're behaving right now. And so now it's kind of become our family joke. Whenever he starts doing something dumb, I'm like, go get your hammer.
That's an awesome, like, take a breath. You can do this.
Yeah, like I don't have to be like, you're being dumb, like, because we have our moments. Like you're not there with your 14-year-old or with your 6-month-old yet. One day he's going to be 14 and you're going to have a different relationship with him. And that's my 14-year-olds, they're twins. And so I can be, friends with them and joke with them and stuff, but I also have to still be their mom. And so there's days where I'm like, you're being dumb. And then I'm like, I don't like calling them dumb, And so being able to say things like, go get your hammer, it reminds them like, hey, you're being ridiculous right now. Why don't you think about what you're doing and use the proper tools?
Yeah, for sure. I thought we trained you for this. I thought we prepared you for this.
But then also 14, they go through when all the hormones hit their brain and their brain stops working. And you're like, I know that you know how to do this.
I bet that's how they're feeling too. Like, that's probably pretty stressful.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like especially my 14-year-old son, he's just in like his own world. He's like, "Meh, life is good for me. Like I just kind of do what I'm told and I don't have to put any effort into life. Like and I'm struggling with that one because I'm very driven and his twin sister is very driven and he's just like tra la la."
Wouldn't that be nice?
But I have my frustrations with him, but he's also the kid that like handles our whole farm and has his own dairy heifers and you know, he plays on his baseball team. He's the treasurer of our 4-H group. So, he's definitely a go get 'em kid, but in his kind of everyday life, I'm like, you're going to drive me crazy. Like, I am so ready for your hormones to mellow out. I'm like, at least like focus your hormones towards a girl or something where you're at least driven for something. Like right now, it's like he's just in the brain fog part of it. So
Yeah,
definitely.
that feels like my favorite pregnancy fact is that when you're pregnant, your brain literally melts to give your brain to the baby. Like you have more gray matter in your brain than ever before. And I wonder if that's similar when you're going through puberty, if your brain is just like changing so fast that it isn't a brain.
That's definitely something to consider because I know that pregnancy brain for me it's bordering on debilitating compared to where my brain normally functions.
Yeah, well, it's so comforting or just like reassuring to know that fact that your brain literally is dissolving and it's okay and it'll come back.
That makes me feel a little better because yeah, I
Right?
was pretty sure those were like the dumbest times of my life.
Yeah, no, you're just working hard.
All right, that's good to know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll have to we should look that up and see like if puberty is a similar situation with the hormones. Do your hormones literally melt your brain?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Or maybe I'll have to make a note to find someone for the podcast on that.
Yeah, I'll listen to it. I'll watch out.
Okay, for sure. So, if you had a family come to you, what would be kind of the first steps you would suggest to them to either get their kids outside or if they were wanting to start a school, what would you suggest?
Well, if you're looking to get outside more, the first thing to do is to go outside. It sounds simple, but
Right.
it's it's hard for a lot of people, especially people who live in cities.
Hmm.
There is still outside in cities, even if it has concrete, even if it doesn't have any trees, it is still outside. Um, there's a phrase called the doorstep mile, that the hardest part of walking a mile is getting out the door. And that's the
Hmm.
same thing for being outside. First thing to do is go outside. And then, yeah, the next thing is
I
to
know
get
one thing I
comfortable.
did. I put like I got one of those internet extenders. I think it was like $100.
Yeah,
So that I can have Wi-Fi on my porch so that I can work outside and so I can have my younger kids outside and they're being supervised while I work.
awesome. That's a great hack.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is a lot of people I think are scared of being outside, whether it's scared of ticks and spiders and bugs, or they're scared of natural disasters or being too cold or too hot, or they're scared of other people. Yeah, the next thing to do is to identify that fear for yourself and live into it, because we are part of nature and we haven't lived this inside for very long in our history. And if we've made it this far, you can make it this far too.
Right. Like it's okay to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then finding finding hacks or ways around it, ways to live your life outside, whether it's being able to work outside, um, or being able to even bring your whole office, like move your space, open your windows, bring your plants inside, get a little bit of meshing between your inside and
Mhm.
outside is really helpful. Um, yeah, it's simple and it's huge for a lot of people. More people spend time inside than I think about. I don't know, it surprises me.
And I can, you're sitting here with me on my podcast right now where you can see my office behind me. That's the
Mhm.
corner with walls. The corners on the sides here are picture windows that overlook the valley.
That's
So
so nice.
yeah, I mean, have like the most amazing view out both sides. I can see Canada out one window, and I can see um just a huge alfalfa field with cattle and stuff out the other window. So,
Well, that's so
and
good for your eyeballs too.
and my kids like my grassy area. Like the other day I was doing a podcast and I thought the kids were all taking a nap, and all of a sudden I saw a ball like go past my window, and I'm like, oh, the kids are up. But my teenagers help with the littles when I'm podcasting, so I don't even have to worry about it. But it is nice because I can, even on the days that I can't be there with the kids, because I can't podcast on the porch, although it looks like you are. So
Yeah, I am.
I love it. I can still watch my kids play and enjoy time sort of with them, I'll get done recording and I'll open the window so I can hear them play while I'm editing and stuff.
That's so sweet. And they probably don't even know.
They don't. I get to hear all the crazy stuff they talk about.
Nice.
Which is usually really sweet, like, except for the two 14-year-olds who egg each other on at this point. But
yeah,
the littles talk about very sweet things. Oh, yeah, I can hear them out there. Shh, we're picking flowers for mommy, so don't say it really loud. I'm like, oh, I'm getting a dandelion bouquet.
Yay. Yeah, we have in our classroom, we have that boat that's turned into a playhouse, and it's made out of like old lumber, and so a lot of it has holes in it. And there's one little peeking spot that I love to look through and peek on the kids playing in the boat. And it's just so sweet what happens when they're relatively safe, like there's adults around, they're inside of the fence, and they're unsupervised as far as they know. It's just so fun to watch.
Right. So I mean, you're in the Pacific Northwest, so it's cold, it's rainy. How do you handle like wintertime outdoors?
Yeah, we put on our coats and we do a lot of moving outside. Those are the two keys. So having lots of layers, like a base layer that will keep you warm even if you're a little bit wet, so like wool or poly base layer, and then fuzzy clothes, and then a waterproof outer shell, because the worst part of being outside in the winter is if you're wet. And then we move around a lot. So I'm looking at it right now, but we walk up and down this big hill a lot on the property, and we encourage them to keep moving and do big play outside. And then we also check in on them a lot because we're trying to encourage autonomy and self-sufficiency. So asking them like, are your hands cold right now? Your nose looks a little bit red. Are you sure you don't want to add another coat? Do you need to go on a run? Things like that.
I love that.
To get them to notice what they're feeling so that they can organize their own clothes eventually.
Yeah, I mean, that gives them autonomy, and it also teaches them some trust with you too, that like, oh, she's acknowledging this, or oh, she suggested it. What would happen if I put on my other coat, and rather than just that you need to go put on another coat.
Right. Well, yeah, because I don't know. And some kids are warmer than others. Some kids like to be cold. I'm never going to let a kid get hypothermia or actually in danger, but it's okay to be a little cold.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I mean, I have a hard time keeping my kids inside when it snows here and stuff, and we kind of almost have to. Like, there's not really another option. So,
right.
So as we're getting closer to the end of our time, one of my favorite questions for everyone is, what does keep growing mean to you?
It means stay curious and keep asking questions. That's one of my favorite parts of working with kids, is that it keeps me curious and it keeps me growing, because they have so much left to explore in the world. When they're 3, they oftentimes haven't built a community without their parents there. Maybe they've never been far away, they've never been on an airplane, or they've never eaten lunch at a table with somebody else. And watching them learn that at our school inspires me to keep that spirit alive in myself.
I love that. So do you want to tell everyone where they can find you?
Yeah, totally. We are on Instagram at Barefeet Farm School, and our website is barefeetfarmschool.com. And I always love to invite people to the farm too. If you're ever close by, you're welcome to come visit at any time.
Oh, how fun. I might have to put that on my list, because my kids have not seen Seattle yet, except for the airport. So
totally. Yeah, we're like an hour and a half north of Seattle.
Yeah, well, I mean, and for us, if we're going to Seattle, we've already driven 5 hours, so another
Right.
hour would be nothing.
Totally.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today, and everybody be sure and go check her out because I really love what she's doing with kids. Have a good
Yeah.
one.
Thanks so much. You too.
Thank you for joining me today at the Homestead Education, and I hope that I have given you something to think about this week. To help others find me, please comment and leave a review on your favorite podcast player. You can also follow me on Facebook at the Homestead Education and Instagram at Homestead_education. Do you have questions that you would like answered or just want to say hi? Please email me at hello@thehomesteadeducation.com. Until next time, keep growing!